Up kid here for the cane-wielding, truck-driving, monocle-wearing, punch-throwing, former super middleweight champion of the world. Would you welcome, please, Chris Eubank. Just come from the office yourself, have you?
Something like that.
Now look, we'll talk about Naz and what did or didn't happen, and one or two more legitimate fights in a moment. But I'm absolutely amazed looking at your sort of biography, and it's maybe one of the things that people here don't know. Did boxing sort of save you from the ghetto? You know, you were expelled from school 18 times.
Before I was, yeah.
But yeah, you spent most of your young life in reform schools, in borstals.
Yeah.
You know, that was a pretty tough life, wasn't it?
I didn't think so. I thought it was quite fantastic.
Really?
No, really, it was.
Why?
Because it was exciting. It was me against the system, and it was great fun.
Did you win?
Yes, I did, in actual fact, because I learned. I went to the School of Life, and it's the best school you can go to. The hardest thing for a parent to do is expose a child to the world. But the best thing for the parent to do is to expose the child. It's best you expose the child to the world. There's no better school, otherwise people will use you and abuse you, you know?
But...
Am I funny?
No, I think it's an interesting philosophy. But if you hadn't been any good at boxing, where might you have ended up? Would you be in jail now?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've heard people say, well, if I wasn't successful at what I'm doing, I'd probably end up in jail. That would not be the case for me. I'm a qualified secretary.
So how many minutes a word shorthand? Well, how many words a minute?
I never learned shorthand, but I type about 60 words per minute. Oh. And that's without mistake. Thank you. I took 5 years of typing. I went to a school called Sobro in the Bronx, New York, to actually study word processing. So although it wouldn't have suited my...
Character, disposition,
yes, okay.
Demeanour.
Yes, although it wouldn't have suited, it would have done, because one has to make do with what they have, you know.
Sure. Frankie, you had actually a pretty interesting upbringing, didn't you? You know, with your mum was a trapeze artist, wasn't
it? That's right.
Did you get brought? Did you get brought up by a nun as well?
No.
We'll sack the researcher in that case. But you did. But I mean, it was a sort of dysfunctional in a way.
Yeah, my parents separated, so I spent my life, my childhood here, there, and everywhere with my mum and dad, my godmother, a few different people. But like Chris said, is you learn a lot. Basically, you learn how to cope with yourself, and you wake up a lot quicker.
Mm. But then, in a sense, you've got this sort of steely determination that's made you one of the world's great jockeys, and you're very popular. We're the best one in the world, Chris. You are one of the great boxers of the world, but not the world's most popular one. Does that matter? Does that matter to you?
Most popular.
I have to live with me, first and foremost. I became a byproduct of what I was doing because I was doing it so much back in 1990 to 1995 and a half. I was fighting too many world title fights, and it became tedious because I was doing it too much. And so I was at pains with what I was doing. But being away from the business for 2 years now, I've had time to reflect and reevaluate who I am and what I'm here to do. And I'm a showman. And boxing it's a brilliant medium or conduit for me to be able to be the showman that I am.
But you used to say, when you were at your zenith, that boxing was a barbaric sport. Do you not think it is now?
No, it's still a barbaric sport. That hasn't changed, just my attitude has changed. This sometimes brutal business gives me a great deal of influence. It gives me the opportunity to entertain, to be able to inspire people. But that doesn't change the fact that it is barbaric. That's a logical observation one can take from looking at a fight, you know.
Frankie was talking earlier actually about getting out at the right time. Do you think your reputation as a boxer is diminished by every further defeat that you might have in your career? Are you not better off now, irrespective of anything else, calling it quits, while people still say, what a great fighter he was?
In a perfect world, that would be very well, and that would be good, to be able to be disciplined and sensible enough to call it a day at the right time. But as you get older, as your intellect becomes wiser, one says to themselves, well, what's life about? Life is about living, you know. I've come up with a statement not too long ago which goes like this: life is a show. Thank God for the show. And yeah, thank you. If I'm able, then I will be fighting for as long as I can. That's my attitude now, and I've never had that attitude before. You know, as I said, while I was champion, it was get out as quickly as I can. When I retired, retirement is like death. There is nothing to do. That's boring. That's not living. While you have a talent, you should show that, you know. Even in losing my last fight to this Joe Calzaghe, it was
one of your bravest performances, I think, probably any of us ever seen in a ring, you know.
Thank you.
Let me tell you, John.
Yeah, quickly, yeah.
I had to take 2 Nurofen when I went to bed. I had a headache for him.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Before the clock runs away with us, give us the definitive Eubank version of what happened when you met Naz at the airport.
Basically, I decided, I've always taught this lesson to youngsters in schools. I go and I speak to infants, I speak to juniors, I speak to undergraduates around the country. And as far as bullies are concerned, the way in which you treat a bully is always punch him in the eye. Even though he may beat you up afterwards, punch him in the eye, because that one punch in the eye will make him leave you alone forevermore. So although it'll be hard for the time being, when you actually do it, it'll be easier for you in the future. Right. Now, he taunted me. He called me an unpleasant name, or one I wouldn't care to use on television. I ignored him, and then he said to me, Chris, would you like to see my belt? You don't taunt me. I've been there. I've bought the T-shirt. I've drunk the beer, so to speak. You know, you don't do that. Where's your class? Where's your manners? Where's your etiquette? You know, you don't do that. And plus, I'm a person who has advised this kid. I've tried to steer him. So in no way do I deserve that type of treatment. Anyway, because of my manhood, because of my pride, I
hit him.
Well, no. I had to retaliate. I said to him, I put some paper in his mouth. I had something in my hand, and I put it in his mouth, and I said, listen, stay away from me. Don't do that, because otherwise, you know, I'll slap you. Basically, the idea was that if I approach him, he won't do that again, because if I let him get away with it that time, he'd do it again. And it's just not on. It's bad behavior. I apologize to the people who may appreciate Chris Eubank as being a gentleman. It was rather ungentlemanly conduct.
But it had to be done,
but
from your point of view.
Okay.
All right, don't go away, because I'd like to know what you have to think about the prospects of a unification fight in the heavyweight division. Evander Holyfield, one half of the most famous, infamous, I suppose, sporting moment of the whole year. He actually keeps his own counsel most of the time, but in this rare interview, he's had the ear of Gary Richardson. Well, you could afford that, couldn't you?
I suppose I could, but Lamborghinis are not for me.
Oh, really? OK. Just trucks. And just very quickly, when Lennox Lewis and Evander get it together eventually, whenever, who's going to win that, do you think?
The best man.
OK. Chris Eubank, Frankie Dettori.